Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Face to Face with me, Azad Ali. Well, we've discussed all the issues that are taking place in Kashmir. This week, what we want to do is look at what are the prospects. What is the future for Kashmir? Joining me in the studio is Basharat Ali, legal advisor, solicitor, as well as a political commentator. Assalamu alaikum. Basharat, thank you for joining us again to discuss Kashmir, a very important topic. I think last time, when we discussed, we were talking about the historical issues, yes, a lot of the political kind of things that took place both from Pakistan and in India and everything else. Today, really, we want to focus, it's been going on for so long, is there a future? Is there any hope and everything else? And, you yourself are from Kashmir and everything else, your family, yourself, you're living through this. I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel that there is a light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, look, as Muslims, we never give up hope. And as people who have a view and a vision, we have to struggle. So looking at Kashmir, as I said, I compare it to a modern day Warsaw ghetto, that 7 to 8 million people for over a month have been corralled in like animals without supplies getting in, communication, the reports of thousands of people disappearing. But in history, human beings have gone through this. The Jews went through it in the Second World War, and the Gypsies, and the communists, and the trade unionists.
Has any international observers, anyone been allowed in?
But there was an international body, according to the UN resolutions from the 40s and 50s. But
since 5th of August 2019.
Anybody who's there is going to be restricted because communication is very difficult.
Right.
So the suffering, one can only imagine how horrendous it is. The reports of thousands of people being lifted, basically taken into ghost detention. Even prominent, very well-known politicians who were pro-India. Many reports, they were restricted.
So, in terms of prospects, having hopes going forward. So if we break it down in perhaps different areas. First thing is in terms of politically, if you like, or in terms of nationally, in terms of the people, do they want a independent Jammu Kashmir? Do they want to be with Pakistan, or do they want to be India? This is probably the fundamental question.
My own view is that the majority will incline towards Pakistan. If there was any doubt, what India did has sealed that. So for me, it is unlikely that, I can't say impossible, but I'm pretty certain that they will not go pro-India. It just doesn't fit. Now, you talk about politics. Democracy has failed the people of India, and Kashmir is but one example. Many people make this into a Hindu-Muslim issue, and it's absolutely not that. When you look at the current regime, let's deal with the BJP. That's like the BJP are proud of their Nazism. When Modi was chief minister of Gujarat, they had books which were praising the chief. When he was chief minister, they portrayed Hitler as a hero. In other parts of India, this has become a norm. And even a 10th grade book, for example, I'm quoting from Haaretz newspaper, by the way, so this is not a Muslim, it's from the Haaretz paper. In Tamil Nadu, for example, in 2011, books were released which talked about the achievements of the Nazis and so on. So Nazism is fundamental to RSS. RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, is basically an organization that goes back to the 1920s. They've got apparently 6 million members across 50,000 villages in India. Of course, they're in the cities. UP, the largest Uttar Pradesh province of India, they're huge. And the worst of the excesses are in that state, many are saying. So in India at the moment, there is a Nazi-influenced regime in power because the BJP is a front. Modi is ex-RSS himself. Many ex-RSS people are in key positions of power. So Dalits, who are Hindus mainly, over 250 million are being oppressed. Many of them are being killed. Many of them have had their rights taken. Muslims are 200 odd million. And their vision actually, as I said, if you take the Nazi concept, they view anybody who's not Hindu as being an invader or an alien to India.
Right.
So just as the Nazis went for the Jews first, then the communists, then the trade unionists and gypsies, so it is their view. So nobody is safe. Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Muslims, And this is very worrying.
Yeah.
That the world should allow this to happen.
So I mean, historically, I can see where you're coming from with the RSS and all of that kind of stuff. But isn't it? I mean, the Congress Party are there. I mean, there are other politicians there. Yes, I mean, I accept there might be some elements of nationalism and all of that. But I'm sure it's not a blatantly Nazi thing. I mean, Indian government, they would say that a lot of the things they're doing is to actually reclaim back. So one of the things is like, they want to reclaim back India from the colonial era. They're renaming Bombay to Mumbai. They're actually what they want to do. In their views, they're kind of bringing back what it used to be, restoring that.
Well, you see, the Nazis had this concept in the 40s and the fascists in Mussolini. And those two are heroes, Mussolini and Hitler, for these people. In terms of America, Britain, America first, America great, America for Americans. This mindset is not unique to Modi and co.
So it's a nationalistic
nationalistic Nazi type ideology, but it's prevalent across Europe. Look in Europe.
So yeah, I mean, no doubt there is a rise in far right and right wing politics, rhetorics, and everything else. No doubt we are seeing that.
Yeah.
That being the case, and if what you're saying is true and accurate, it is true, obviously what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, if the analysis is accurate, then you're essentially saying that India has become a one-party state now.
It has. The Supreme Court of India has been sitting. Even these judges, some of them who came out publicly and challenged that the Constitution of India was under threat, they've not moved. It's unprecedented that in any civilized society where 7 or 8 million people are under lockdown, the law has been changed, that the Supreme Court is not even moving. So India at the moment is in the grip of this. You mentioned the Congress Party. Yes, the Congress Party were not as barbaric in terms of intensity. But look, when Indira Gandhi was killed, the Sikhs were massacred across India, Congress were in power. When the Ayodhya Masjid, if I'm not mistaken, was damaged by people like L.K. Advani and co., they were in power. Gujarat, I think it was the BJP. So, in my opinion, the Congress Party has ruled over majority of the time when Kashmiris were being slaughtered in Kashmir. So they're no more friendly. And by the way, as a point here, many people say that the Pandit Hindus were forced to leave Kashmir. If any Muslim has done any dhulm or oppression upon them, they're equally blameworthy of criticism. Yeah. We don't pick and choose the sort of oppression that we like or we don't like.
Of course. And that's fair. But
and by the way, just one more point.
Sure.
There are many millions of Hindus who are, hundreds of millions of Hindus who are not pro-BJP in India. So let's make that clear that this is actually a failure of democracy in India. Just as it failed.
I mean, you're talking about the political elite and people with influence, and not necessarily the masses. But that being the case, and we see, for example, in the UK, what's happening with the Brexit and everything else. The Parliament is shut down. So democracy has its processes, but it's not necessarily a model that works for everyone. It's very obvious to see. That all being the case, how is it then that the 7 or 8 million Kashmiris that are under lockdown at the moment, there is a communication blackout. How is it that then they can change this situation? Okay. Well, are we saying there's going to be intervention from outside somewhere, in Pakistan or somewhere else?
Well, look, the way I look at this is to draw parallels with the Second World War again. When France was under occupation by the Nazis, the French resistance fought behind enemy lines. They were French people. And when they fought to liberate the land of oppression, illegal occupation by a foreign entity. Now, Kashmir, India can do what it wants within India. But Kashmir was never a part of India. And therefore, it has done, in my opinion, what is illegal. And many people have commented upon this. Therefore, the people are entitled to defend themselves. Churchill famously said the same thing.
But what if the argument is, and this is where it gets blurry, that you had the Chief Minister of Kashmir, you had all of these Muslim members of the parliament and everything else. They asked for the Indian army to come over.
No, they didn't. Originally, Farooq Abdullah's dad in the 50s, they were politically, they're no different to Boris Johnson of today. Machiavellian politicians who need power, who need to, massage their egos. But the issue comes down to this. Just as, for example, the Falklands was occupied and it was liberated, Pakistan, when it tried to take Kashmir, India attacked across the national border. The military and political leadership of Pakistan has failed the Kashmiri people. The Kashmiri people need help. You know, as Muslims, we shouldn't shy away from this. America, today is the 18th anniversary of the attacks on 9/11, the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center. America's killed over 1 million people in conflicts after that. It believes it can do that. My view is that where there is oppression, Muslim or non-Muslim must intervene to stop the oppression. But the difficulty is that the Muslims are divided into nationalists, into dictatorships, into monarchies, into people who are led, not the people at large. Muslims do not support oppression of anyone and will speak out against it.
Okay.
The problem is we're divided as a community and therefore we are being oppressed the world over, particularly.
No, I mean, I accept your arguments here and reasoning, but I'm just thinking, and we are coming up to the break and maybe we'll take it after the break.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, okay, that being the case, there are still people in Kashmir, occupied Kashmir if you will, Jammu Kashmir, that, you know, want to actually not go to Pakistan, they want to be with India, or which is the important one we haven't discussed, is they want to be independent.
Yeah, there is a view. Look, let's put it this way. There was a minority view for pro-India. There's a minority view of independence. But given what's happened, it's difficult to gauge any public opinion because simply you
I'm going to stop you there because it's going to be difficult for you to finish what you started because we have come to a break. So we're going to take a quick break, inshallah. Join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the second part. So yeah, just before the break, Basharat, I did stop you. So in terms of like, look, you're saying, and maybe you've got a lot of proof, the majority of the Kashmiris would want to side with Pakistan or be with Pakistan as part of Pakistan, in whichever form. Others will say no, they want independence. Others will say no, they want to be with India. So it's a tricky situation. Now, how does who do we bring in to this situation that can help this?
Okay, well look, I don't dispute your analysis is correct. All three of those opinions exist. But the truth of the matter is that, go back to the source of the problem, 1948, Nehru agreed to a plebiscite, so hold a vote.
Yeah. So that is the solution.
And if you hold
so who can make that happen?
Well look,
because at the moment India is far as India is concerned, Jammu Kashmir is part of
well, that's right.
India.
They've effectively annexed it like Israel has annexed parts of the West Bank and Palestine to make it into their state. They give their justification. I don't agree with it. Now, it can only happen, might is right. We live in an era where economic might, military might, political might rules the day. So the Muslims being divided with these toothless organizations like the OIC, Arab League, complete post-colonial talking shops, they fail the Muslims. So Muslims have to politically raise their game, assume control, and flex their muscle because everybody else is doing it.
If you're talking about more like maybe there needs to be a military intervention in this. This is the only way it's going to be solved.
Well, India's used a military intervention to annex it. So what is taken by force? Look, as I said to you, Thatcher famously remarked, "Am I the only man in this cabinet?" When the Falklands was occupied, the cabinet didn't want to fight, and she sent the task force and liberated a speck of land, which is about 12,000 miles or however far it is from the United Kingdom. Because it is a matter of principle that you're defending. There's genocide taking place in Kashmir. You can't stand by. The world stood by and saw the Holocaust. 6 million people were killed, majority of them Jewish, for their faith. And the people of Jammu and Kashmir are being targeted because of their faith as Muslims. That's my view.
So if that was, and I'm not saying that isn't necessarily the option or not, but if that was the case, can Pakistan do it by itself? Is Pakistan strong enough? I mean, we've discussed in a previous show, how, amateurish Pakistan was in many of the situations that
just like the Arab regimes with the Arab-Israeli conflict, when you have got people who cannot think outside of a box, conflict doesn't have to be the only way. If the Arabs were not so at the feet of Modi and drinking from his hand, they could cut off energy. You don't have to. Look, violence is always last resort. Conflict is not desirable by anyone. People die, there's destruction, there's death, And we're not talking about a few people. If there's a conflict, maybe hundreds of thousands could be killed. But the reality is that millions are being ground down. You and I, in the comfort of London, we can talk about this, but whether it was a Hindu or a Muslim or an atheist in Jammu and Kashmir, I would still have the same view. They should not be oppressed. And the oppressed has the right to defend himself, and those who can help the oppressed should. So practically, look, on the east side of India is Bangladesh. Bangladesh is at the moment, rather like Pakistan, is in the pockets of America and then pockets of India. The Awami League is very well known for this. They will dispute it, but my view, there's Indonesia not too far away, Malaysia is not too far away, Afghanistan is there. The problem is the political chain the Muslim world has to go back to unifying, because the world is unified on belief systems, ideologies.
Okay, let's take your example of economic approach to this. Let's leave out the Middle East because we're not seeing. But if there were to be countries that can actually economically hurt India, to bring it to its senses, if you like, to hold the referendums, to let the people decide, not to do anything else, just hold a referendum, let the people decide. Where do you think that would come from? What do you see?
Well, look,
where are the opportunities?
Modi is not going to concede unless there is serious... Look, public opinion turns upon when you now put the pressure. So if energy was cut off, because look, people are being killed, dying, oppressed. Now if when economically India is in a bad shape, there are a few big groups of businessmen that are benefiting. The average Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, atheist are suffering. So the way it must move forward is if you can get economic and political sanction to force the vote. I'm not a nationalist of either variety, Pakistani or otherwise. I see that as a Muslim, I view it from an Islamic perspective, and Muslims should unite their resources, their lands, their militaries. And if you had that, you would be able to bring India to the negotiating table and say, right, you disagree, let's have the vote. And if they go with Pakistan, they go with Pakistan. Because the people are being asked. But at the moment, the Pakistani army is capable of assisting the people of Kashmir to defend themselves. And there are people occupied. As I said, I've given examples of the Second World War, and America's gone
to... let me spin the question a little bit. What is India so fearful of losing if it loses Jammu Kashmir? What is it that is actually... Because, okay, we're talking about, nationalism and all of that kind of stuff to a point, but really all of this time, energy, money, since 1947, why is it that important?
Well,
what is it?
It's basically a relic of the partition of India, and for them, if Kashmir goes, they say that India will go, because India is an artificial creation. Under the British, you've got people who speak so many different languages, different cultures. Okay, UP is not India. Punjab is predominantly Sikh. You've got Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, West Bengal, you've got Assam, you've got Bihar, and so on, Himachal Pradesh, etc. There are various, and as I said to you in the past, it's too early to say so, but perhaps Modi is like Milosevic. He may well have signalled the destruction of India in time to come. Because what he's done is set a very dangerous precedent. And people are now thinking, could it be us next? Could it be us next? And if that happens, it could be horrendously bloody. There could be mass suffering. You could have partitions.
Well, would the Indian government or Modi government, its argument would be is because the country is so diverse, so different and everything else, it needs to unite on a common thread, and that is Hinduism.
Well, no, they didn't, because at the time of partition, they united on a secular constitution, and that's why the Maharaja acceded to India, by the way. But when you talk about that, the concept of Pakistan was the concept of Muhammad Iqbal. Allama Iqbal, may Allah have mercy upon him. This man was a very smart political analyst. He realized that this sort of thing would happen. He used the words to the fact that the leadership, the nationalists, were incorrigible, i.e. they would not back off. The Muslims were in a weak position. Now, analysis is based upon understanding of reality. We were not there, but this man was incredibly smart. He saw this coming, and hence, he famously changed from the nationalist anthem to a very... I'm going to just give you a couple of lines of the poetry to set the context, because he said, Chino Arab hamara, Hindustan hamara, Muslim hai hum, Watan hai sara jahan hamara. He said, look, he did not use nationalism as a basis, like you have in Pakistan, and even, Hamara Shona Bangla, and the Arabs have, biladi, 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 Egypt, laki hubbi wa fuadi, this sort of nationalist, lowly sentiment. He said, look, China, Arabia, India, and the whole world is ours. We are Muslim, the whole world is ours. I.e. that he had a Muslim vision. He said, Tawheed ki amanat sino mein hamare, aisa nahi mitana naam o nishan hamara. It's a very beautiful poetry that Tawheed, Islam is in our hearts. You cannot pull us down. So his vision and the original concept of Pakistan was a land for Muslims according to Islam. He died in 1936, and then, unfortunately, it's an unfulfilled project. So my view is that Pakistan is unfinished business. It's been hijacked in the last 50, 60 years by, in my opinion, leaderships which are inept, incompetent, or sold out, rather like the other Muslim countries.
Okay, we are nearing the end. In terms of, it's been 47 till now, 70 odd years, right? There are a new generation of Kashmiris. They've not known anything else. This is what they know.
Yes.
In terms for their, and I think we've got, pictures of children there going to school and everything else. How is it for them? What is the future like? You see that, we're getting all of this political analysis, but on the ground for these people, these young children and everything else, day in, day out, what is their reality?
It's absolutely horrendous. As I said, it's a modern day Warsaw ghetto. So they are suffering, they're struggling, they're resilient people. Their forefathers were the ones that took 21 men to complete the Adhan. They love Islam, they love justice, and they will struggle, as people have done in the past. If you look at it through the prism of history, it is very painful, as have been other genocides in history, whoever it was. You look at China, look at Burma, look at Palestine, there are various. So the reality is that the world has decided to sell humanity for benefit, whether it's China, America, and the powers. And the only solution I see, in my opinion, is that the Muslims have to work towards a unity, a political unity, Islamic unity. Our deen is based upon a unity of purpose and vision based upon Kitab and Sunnah. The only thing that we recognize is the concept of Khilafah, which unites Muslim, Bengali, Punjabi, Arab, Indonesian, Malay. So the way we look at this is that in the interim, there's going to be hardship, there's going to be suffering. But you know something? One of Iqbal's poems comes to mind, which aptly sums up the condition in Kashmir. He said, "Kar den juda deen siyasat se to reh jati hai Changezi." He said, if you separate deen from politics, you're left with Changiz Khan, yani barbarity and savagery. If you look at what's going on in the world is drowning in nationalism, in rampant secularism and Nazism. Mainland Europe has it. And therefore, the future at the moment is very tough. And we can do is to raise the voice of the Kashmiris, to raise their cause. And if you want to speak to your friends in this country, if you mention the Warsaw Ghetto, anybody who's studied high school history
they'd know what
knows.
It means.
And that brings a vision. And it is an absolute apt vision.
Well, Jazakallah khair, Basharat. We have run out of time, and may Allah make it easy for the people of
for all of the oppressed,
and everyone that is oppressed there, and bring a swift resolution to this. Jazakallah khair, everyone, for listening, and thank you for joining me again.
You're welcome. Thank you.